Let's talk about immigration for the moment. What, in essence, if you can distill it within 40 seconds or so at least, what is your view as to what needs to be done to solve and what you consider to be the immigration problem, quote unquote?
A few years back, and this is something I had a lot of experience with because it was one of the major issues that we worked on when I worked in the House office here in New York. Immigration is one of those things which has become so divisive in the country. The reality of it is, and I remind people of this all of the time, is we go back to the basics of what this country was founded on. We cannot, in 2010, try and change the rules and change the game and not allow people to have a path of entry into this country. This is a nation of immigrants, and I think that we need to completely reimagine what the immigration process is in this country and make sure that it's something that's efficient and streamlined and that people have a fair shake to get here.
Okay,
but most importantly, we need to deal with the people who have been here and they've raised their families here and they've been an important part of it, but they're fearful of actually coming out and becoming a part of the system. And I think we need to figure out a quality path to citizenship for folks that have been here and have already invested in the work.
And there are other aspects, I'm sure. But one of the other issues that gets raised is, what about those who might follow and enter the country illegally? Do you see that as an issue or not?
No, I see it as an issue, but I think if you fix the system and you first of all deal with the immigrants that are here and give them a fair and equitable means to become naturalized in this country, if they so choose to do so, that's the first step. The second step is figuring out a way that we can actually fix the system so that there is an equitable way that people can come into the country if they so choose to seek citizenship here.
You know that
but you can't fix the problem unless you actually completely re-envision the actual structure, and it's time to actually do that, and it has to happen at the federal level so you can avoid these situations with states like Arizona that are arbitrarily doing these rules.
Right, but I'm sure that you're aware, certainly you're running for Congress, and you're well educated and so on, that there are thousands, perhaps millions of people in different countries throughout the world who are in line, as it were, for legal entry into the United States.
Yes.
What do you say about them? Should they take a back seat to whoever got in here illegally, or should they have a priority in this process?
Well, that's a complicated question because it is an individual situation for individuals and how they got here, how long they've been here, what they've actually been doing. I think that there's a way to figure out a uniform structure, but the actual implementation of that for individuals, it has to be something, again, that is fair and equitable, that people can understand, that doesn't have people caught up in the system for years, or doesn't have people caught up in a system where they're fearful, where they're going to be separated from their families if they've been here for 10, 15, 20 years and have children and grandchildren that they've raised here. People who've really propped up this country in many instances by working hard in this country and doing, the jobs that this country needs to move forward. We need to figure out how they can actually have a fair and equitable means of staying here. And then we can deal with the situation of the people who have been waiting on waiting lists or have signed up at their local consulates to actually get the path to citizenship in the country.
Let's move to a topic that's very vital in an immediate sense to people in that district as well as many other districts. But we know that it's a hot issue in the area not only of Harlem, but increasingly in the Washington Heights-Inwood area. And that's the phenomenon of gentrification, which for those viewers who may not know, gentrification essentially is when neighborhoods where poor people live are redeveloped and the poor people have to get out and they're replaced by higher educated, higher income people. And that's essentially what gentrification is.
Certainly.
What would you do about that, since some people say that's actually led to a reinvigoration of Harlem, the gentrification of it?
I think it can be balanced, and I think the first thing that we need to do is you solve a lot of those problems by giving people access to jobs and education, because as prices escalate, because it's a supply and demand issue. We live in one of the most expensive cities in the world, and it's only a matter of time before people who fall into that middle category get priced out of where they were, and then they say, I want to stay in Manhattan, so they start moving further north, further north, further north. Look at the Lower East Side. Look at Chelsea. Look at Hell's Kitchen in Midtown. Areas that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, were populated primarily by working people. And now they're not. They've been completely transformed. So you ask yourself the question, where did those people go that live there? Well, they've moved uptown. They've moved to the outer boroughs. They've moved to,
And
you
that
know,
process is
Williamsburg.
now happening uptown, and it's
Right.
happening in the outer boroughs, it's happening in Williamsburg, it's
Correct.
happening almost everywhere, Lower East Side, as you
The
mentioned.
way you counteract that is you actually elevate the earning potential of the population that lives there so that they can protect. The other thing that you need to do is we need to actually put more resource into making sure as we elevate that level, we provide more opportunities for affordable housing, whether those be ownership opportunities.
How do you do that?
Well, there are subsidy programs. There's the homework programs in New York that allows people that fall into certain income ranges to buy homes. The problem is that there's the numbers that they use, which are based on HUD numbers, eliminate a lot of folks because the caps for the subsidies are too low. And I propose that we actually raise them slightly. And by raising them by 10%, and I'm just using that arbitrary number, by raising those caps by 10%, you keep a lot more working people in the communities because they would have access to some of these programs, which they're not currently available to them now because they don't meet the income restrictions.